Massive earthquake swarm in Nevada. We just had a magnitude 5.0. Then if you look at the list, 4.3, 3.8, and that since Thursday, and it's accelerating in magnitude with the 5.0 that just happened. And we have tsunamis in Nevada, guys. Today's going to be an interesting video. I wanted to report about the mysterious earthquake swarm that is happening in Nevada right now. We've had over 13 earthquakes now between magnitude 1.9 and 4.1 since Thursday, and they still keep coming. The internet is full of it, of reports, magnitude 3, magnitude 3.1, something like this. And while I was doing my research about this mysterious earthquake swarm in Nevada, I found something else, which is really, really strange. Tsunami waves in Nevada that are triggered not by this local Nevada earthquake swarm, but by all the other big earthquakes that have happened around the world in recent weeks. The Kamchatka earthquakes, the earthquakes in Japan, in Indonesia. So you might think, tsunami in Nevada, that doesn't really make much sense unless there was such a huge tsunami that was swapping all over the West Coast through California into Nevada. No, that's not the case. But there is a hole with water in Nevada, and fish live in that underground cave/hole. And now they're dying because they're having tsunamis in there, caused by these other earthquakes. So the waves were traveling from the Kamchatka earthquake, from the Japan earthquake, Myanmar earthquake, and they've been rattling the fish there and have caused a local tsunami in Nevada. Doesn't that sound crazy? So let's look into the current earthquake swarm, because there's news. Nevada might be splitting apart, or the ground might be splitting apart from this earthquake swarm. So what's the deal here, guys? And what are the fish saying? It's going to be interesting. Take a cup of coffee or tea or something else, and let's talk about this. And before we do, I have something that I would like to ask you. If you find where the comments are, if you find a hype button, that's a new feature of YouTube, please press it. It helps my channel, helps to promote my channel. Sometimes you can slide the comments away, and then there's this hype button, and press it. And of course, like my video and subscribe for more crazy stuff that the earth is producing. So Nevada, earthquake swarm. You see the epicenter here. So headlines, multiple earthquakes, rattle Nevada, where the ground is at risk of splitting apart. And it has done so before in 2020. Roads were cracked. There were fissures opening in the desert. So right now, really, Nevada has a surge of seismic activity since Thursday, and it still keeps coming. You see the latest earthquakes here that the USGS has released. The epicenter is a small town called Valley, and that town is not surprised by earthquakes, I would say, because it is located along several active fault lines in the region, including the Fairview Peak-Dixie fault scarps, the Central Nevada Seismic Belt, and the Pleasant Valley Fault. And the Pleasant Valley Fault is a bad one. That one's capable of producing a quake up to magnitude 7.7. So did you think that Nevada was at such a risk of earthquakes? Because many people are saying, I'm too scared about all the stuff that's going on along the West Coast, California with the San Andreas Fault and all these other local fault lines that are overdue and that are rattling us all the time. Then Northern California, Oregon, Northern Canada, the Cascadia Fault, that is overdue to produce a mega thrust earthquake, magnitude 9+. And then imagine you move to a small town in Nevada to be safe from all of that, and then there's a fault line that can produce a magnitude 7.7, similar to the San Andreas Fault. But since we've seen the Myanmar earthquake last May, the 7.8, scientists have looked into that earthquake and what it has triggered and what that fault, the Seismic fault, did in order to produce that earthquake, because it ruptured completely different than they thought. in a way longer stretch. And here comes the problem. The Saigang Fault is similar like the San Andreas Fault. So the conclusion they drew that the San Andreas Fault, the overdue, that everyone that's waiting for the big one, could be even bigger because of the comparison. I'll put that in the end screen. This is really interesting, a really interesting video. I was surprised that I got the notice. YouTube always lets me know how it's performing, and it says less of your subscribers are interested in this video. And I'm like, what? This is absolutely interesting, guys. So watch it in the end screen. But let's get back to Nevada. So the scientists think that the swarm that is happening right now in Nevada was likely driven by tectonic forces along the fault systems of the basin and range area. This is how they call it. And NASA has even given an explanation. They said the Earth's crust in the basin and range province, this is the name of the area, is gradually expanding. And that's why it's cracking into hundreds of faults as it is thinning. If it's expanding, it thins out. And so it's getting brittle and it's cracking. So NASA is saying that over millions of years, the land on one side of the faults was rising. It has formed mountains, while the land on the other side of the fault was sinking into basins. So rising and sinking. And that's still an ongoing activity. And that's why this basin and range province is one of the most seismically active regions in the US. Please let me know in the comments. If I had asked you before this video, what do you think is one of the most seismically active regions in the US? What would have been your answer? Probably somewhere in California, right? The earthquakes that we're seeing or experiencing in Nevada right now, they're shallow. They're not very deep, averaging about only 5 miles below the surface. The more shallow, the more you feel it. And shallow earthquakes have a stronger risk of doing damage because they produce stronger shaking on the surface. Because the energy of the earthquake reaches the surface more directly. And now, guys, I'm in a hotel room. I'm traveling right now. And to have some light that makes sense, I had to put my camera basically on the window, and I'm sitting in front of the air conditioner, and that automatically controls the temperature. Now I have the wind flowing. I have to turn this off for a second. I'll be back. Gosh, guys! Turn it off. I need to... Gosh, stop it! It's not stopping. Okay. Let me get my hair right before I can continue, right? Don't want to look like I put my finger in an electric plug-in. So, okay, where was I? So regarding how you feel these shallow tremors, the University of Michigan has conducted a test, and it showed that people typically do not feel quakes with a magnitude 2.5 or less. But typically, if we look at Naples, Pozzuoli, the supervolcano Campi Flegrei, where people live right on the caldera and there's constant shaking, they feel it. They really feel it. And these earthquakes are shallow, between 0 and 2 kilometers. So it's not always the case. It depends on where you live. You can really feel them, and they run out at night. They're scared because their homes are rattling. Also depends on the build quality of your homes. In Naples, we have old masonry homes. So it really depends. Of course, in the desert of Nevada, probably it's not densely populated. But so far, we don't have many reports of people that reported to the USGS that they felt any strong shaking because it is so sparsely populated. And there's an interesting feature or location that is in Valmy, where the epicenters of most of these quakes are. So many are speculating, are the quakes caused by gold mining? Not fracking. Usually they say fracking is the culprit in Texas. So In Valmy, there's the Twin Creeks mine and the Turquoise Ridge mine. These are major gold producing sites. And usually mining operations involve extensive excavation and also blastings in order to get to the gold. And that can alter the stress distribution in the rocks nearby. Also, if you remove large volumes of material, it changes the weight and pressure on the Earth's crust. So if they are doing blasting in a mine, that can produce small local tremors, of course. It can occasionally also trigger movement along nearby faults. But is this really the case here? Is this the reason for the earthquake swarm? Because the quakes are quite large. I mean, we know with these mining operations, in some cases, fluid injection or drainage that they're using in mining can increase the pressure underground, and that can slightly lubricate faults and making them more likely to slip. So this can influence local seismic activity, but they're unlikely to be the source or the primary source of larger earthquakes, and we're seeing larger earthquakes here. So the geologists say the basin and range is the culprit for such earthquake swarms, for the swarm that we're experiencing in Nevada right now. Because it is, the basin and range province is near Valmy, and this is geologically very, very active, and it's characterized by alternating north-south mountain ranges and valleys that are formed through extensive crustal stretching. The crust in this area is relatively thin, averaging about 19 to 22 miles thick, and it has undergone lateral extension of roughly 37 to 186 miles since the early Miocene. So this is happening the past 23 million years. And this extension has created hundreds and hundreds of normal fault lines. Normal, what is normal but fault lines. And has caused blocks of the crust to either rise into the mountains or sink into these basins. So the basin and range area covers a really vast area from southern Idaho to Oregon in the north, then runs through Nevada, Eastern California, Arizona, and New Mexico. So it's fairly large. Maybe you remember March 2020, there was a magnitude 6.5 earthquake in Idaho and a 5.7 magnitude earthquake in Utah. And both earthquakes were linked to fault activity in the Basin and Range province. So this is probably the explanation for the current earthquake swarm. But guys, let's talk about the tsunami in Nevada. You will love this story, I think. So I was researching the earthquake swarm, and then I found a headline that really caught my attention. The headline was, "Rarest fish population plummets after world earthquakes rattle Nevada." I'm like, what? So they say that earthquakes around the world, and that of course caught my attention, have rattled the Nevada home of the world's rarest fish deep in a hole in Nye County. And as a result of this, the numbers of the fish have plummeted. So right now, there's a huge effort to prevent that species from going extinct, and they're surveilling that hole. And then whenever there's another larger earthquake, they're like, oh no, another tsunami. The supervisory biologist and Devil's Hole program manager for the Death Valley National Park is actually in charge of ensuring the survival of that fish. His name is Kevin Wilson, and he has said that after a series of powerful earthquakes around the globe, that has stressed the underwater world, leading to a sharp decline in the numbers of the fish. 90% of the population has died. Only 20 fish were left or are left. So what is Devil's Hole? Devil's Hole is doesn't sound like life friendly is it's a water-filled hole of unknown depth, and it's within the Ash Meadows National Wildlife Refuge, and many call it like a true oasis in the Nevada desert. Unknown depth, that sounds mysterious. That's why probably it's named Devil Hole. So it has natural spring-fed pools that are home to several species of pupfish. That's what the fish is called. Devil's Hole is also part of the Death Valley National Park, and their lives are monitored 24/7. They have a live camera, so they could also see the tsunamis. So the cameras, and that's how they saw it, have recorded a series of recent quakes around the world that have rattled this rare fish. They say a surge of water was recorded in Devil's Hole in September, starting in September of 2022, after a magnitude 7.6 earthquake in New Mexico. Well, that's not so far away. That makes sense. They say it has caused 4-foot waves hundreds of miles away. 4-foot waves, that's high. Then they say, then there was an earthquake in December 2024 that has created large waves that have removed most of the food for the fish and their resources. And then there was a second earthquake first week of February that completely removed 99% of their food resources, and that's why they were dying. So they said now the population died quickly from 212 fish in 2024 to 20 fish right now. They actually went down there and counted them. They did like an emergency dive check to see what's happening. So when Kevin Wilson said when he heard about the Kamchatka earthquake, the massive 8.8 earthquake in Russia last month, that he rushed to his office to check the live camera to see how the fish are doing. He said, quote, it was like, oh no, another earthquake. And really, guys, the earthquake in Russia and Kamchatka, I mean, we know it has sent a small tsunami all over the Pacific, also highest wave in Crescent City in California, but it also has caused a tsunami in Nevada. So the earthquake in Kamchatka has created about a 9-inch wave in Devil's Hole, right? So they have an image from the camera that they have taken on July 29th. It shows an algae mat thriving. And then they said the next day, much of it was gone, so no food. So the ecosystem was stressed by that earthquake. Now the biologists are offering the fish like fish food, and they hope that the species can survive with that. They still don't know exactly what the problem is. They're saying there's something in their ecosystem that is just not quite right. So they said after the Kamchatka earthquake, they immediately started feeding extra food to the fish, and they're continuing that until today. And they think that the population is rebounding. Their latest count was 38, so they think they went up from 20 fish to 38 fish. So let's hope the fish survive, guys. I hope you found that interesting. If you want to support the channel, fill me up with coffee. Go to the link underneath this video, buymeacoffee.com/silky. If you click the join button, you can support the channel with a membership. You get behind the scenes videos. You see where I am right now and my travel stuff, my farm, my private life, my animals. And thank you for your supers. Thanks for watching. Click the video in the end screen. It's really interesting. I see you there. Stay safe.